You're watching KOCO 5 News. Breaking news is happening right now.
That breaking news, we're following a deadly shooting and stabbing at a Moore food plant. This is happening at Northeast 12th. This is called Vaughan Foods, the Vaughan Foods South plant in Moore. We understand that there are a few victims here.
That's right. And we also know that some of those victims are being taken to OU Medical Center. We have a reporter there on the scene gathering new information as we speak.
So the reports that we have right now, a woman has been stabbed to death and that a possible suspect has been taken from the scene. Let's go live to Morgan Chesky, who is standing by at OU Medical Center. Morgan, where some of the victims are being brought in. I know you've been working the phones. What new information are you learning?
Yeah, Paul, Jess, we're here at OU Med because we have a Midwest City ambulance right here. Midwest City serves Moore. We're told this is where the victim of that incident was taken here at OU Med. Now, I just got off the phone with Jeremy Lewis with Moore Police. He's describing the scene outside Vaughan Foods right now as a chaotic one that officers are trying to take care of, figure out just exactly what happened. We know that a woman there was stabbed to death. We don't know if it was by a knife or another sharp object, but she has been pronounced dead at that scene. Meanwhile, a man who could be the suspect here was taken away from that scene with gunshot injuries. Now, as for the shooter in this case, we know that that man did not have a gun, and we know the woman did not have a gun either. The police still trying to go through that area. They are treating it as an active shooter scene, but they do not believe anyone in that immediate vicinity is in any danger at this time. Now, Jamie Lewis is telling me that he's going to be holding a briefing here very shortly to hopefully relay more details on this case. Again, we are here just outside OU Med Trauma Center, where the victims of that incident outside Vaughan Foods and Moore are believed to have been brought. We'll keep you posted with the very latest, but Paul, Jess, right now, we will send it back to you.
Okay, Morgan, thank you very much. We do know that there at the scene at Vaughan Foods, there is a maroon Chevy Tahoe that's been corned off with crime scene tape. Armed officers were seen going into this situation, and because when this thing started, which was about 4:30,
right,
they were just trying to figure out exactly what they had.
And when this came out, we had heard reports that this was an active shooting situation. We heard shooting and stabbing, and you just heard Morgan Chesky say that police are saying that a woman was stabbed to death, but there were also some gunshots that rang out as well. If you're wondering about Vaughan Foods, it's the South plant there on Northeast 12th. It's actually a food product supplier, pretty large. They produce and distribute foods across the country. So they do have quite a number of employees there, and this active shooting situation taking place and looking live right now to OU Medical Center, where ambulances have arrived with at least one victim from the scene there in Moore for the shooting and stabbing situation.
And so we do know that there in Moore police are actually handling this situation, but they are being assisted by others. We know OHP is there on the scene as well, trying to discover and find out more information about what led to this stabbing, who was actually injured in this. We don't know at this point. We're trying to find out if this was an employee or if this was a bystander. We don't know, and there we are on the ground.
Right, here is a live look at the scene right now. You can see Vaughan Foods and all the emergency vehicles there. Certainly, the road's not closed because people are passing by there pretty easily, as our camera crew is just across the street showing you these live pictures, trying to see who we see on the scene. More PD, a lot of different flashing lights. It looks like that might be an ambulance off in the background as well, some fire crews as well. So when you have a situation like this, when you hear reports of an active shooting and a stabbing, it becomes an all hands on deck.
It is a very large place, as you said, Jessica, Vaughan Foods there. This is 12th Street there in Moore, and right beside the railroad tracks is where this actually, one of the very first calls came out. They were responding to the railroad tracks, and right there at 12th, then they went into the food area there at Vaughan Foods, and you can see the ambulances there on the scene as we push in. Midwest City Ambulance Service responding to that area today. Still, lots of officers on the scene as we try to dig out more information. Morgan Chesky's there at the hospital waiting on a briefing as well.
Waiting for that latest information, and we have a crew there as well. No doubt they are talking to crews who are on the scene, working to just bring us any more details of what has been an active situation for the last 35 minutes. The news that we had from Morgan Chesky coming straight from Moore Police, Jeremy Lewis, was that a man was taken from the scene. No word if that is in fact the suspect in this situation, but at least one person was taken from the scene. And sadly to report tonight that one woman was stabbed to death. We also had reports that one person was critical and that one person was considered non-critical.
We don't know exactly how many people have been injured in this, but we have seen several ambulances. We saw the ones there at the hospital. We see some there on the scene at Northeast 12th Street there and more. So as we continue to find out more information, of course, this has happened less than 30 minutes ago. So investigators are there on the scene. We're still waiting for more information on that.
So let's go back live now to Morgan Chesky, who is standing by at OU Medical Center. Morgan, where at least one victim has been brought in for help.
Yeah, Paul Justin, that victim that was brought here to OU Med, I'm told by Jeremy Lewis with More PD, is a man who was at Vaughan Foods just a short time ago. Now, he was taken away from that scene with gunshot wounds, but I'm told that he did not have a gun, and we still don't know the person who pulled that trigger there down in Moore. Now, at Vaughan Foods, you mentioned a woman pronounced dead at that scene from stabbing. As of right now, this man believed to be a suspect in that stabbing. However, police still cannot tell me who that shooter is who may have shot that man in the process, possibly stopping the stabbing and bringing that crime to an end. Now, we do know that we have a Midwest City Midwest City ambulance here. They serve the area of Moore. This is the hospital that man is believed to be in right now, getting treatment for those gunshot wounds that he received at Vaughan Foods. Jamie Lewis telling me at I'm sorry? You're looking at Vaughan Foods right now. Now, I'm told by Jeremy Lewis with More Police that officers still going through that building. He described the scene as very confusing and chaotic. A lot of people there trying to figure out just exactly what happened. Other than the fact that we know that woman was stabbed and that man was shot, officers going through that building trying to confirm who the person was who may have pulled that trigger. I'm told that there may have been an off-duty officer on the scene, not currently working, who had a firearm on him at that time. However, that has not been confirmed by More Police at this moment. Of course, More Police trying to gather as much information as they can. Paul Jess, you said this is a very large building. They're trying to keep everyone away. They're trying to treat it as an active shooter situation. However, at this time, they don't believe anyone in that immediate area is in danger. So good news there. In the meantime, still trying to figure out who exactly pulled that trigger in Vaughan Foods just a short time ago.
Morgan Chesky there live at OU Med. Thank you very much for that report. And we saw the shot there live at Vaughan Foods, and you can see one of the ambulances was leaving that scene that we saw just a minute ago there at Northeast 12th. And it did not look like it was pulling out in a terrible rush, so perhaps they were just treating some folks there on the scene and hopefully no more severe injuries.
Right,
there.
And you can see that this is not just a small business. This is a food plant. Looks like a pretty large building. I read an article a few years ago that said that Vaughan Foods employed about 500 people. Those numbers may have changed over the years, but certainly a lot of people on staff there. And at this point, Morgan said it, it's a chaotic situation for them. We're trying to get the latest information coming in from More Police, and they're still trying to figure out exactly what happened, all of the details between one woman who was stabbed to death and one man who was brought to a hospital with gunshot wounds. At this point, the good news is that they don't believe that anyone is in immediate danger right now. And you can tell by the fact that they are just, vehicles are driving past this building freely, but they're still trying to work out the ins and outs of who the suspect is.
And as you look at this scene, the investigators there, More Police handling the investigative part of it, OHP assisting them in any way that they can there at Vaughan Foods. But it does look like you see there are still cars in the parking lot from employees and things like that. So certainly it doesn't look like they've cleared the building, but it does look like that the investigators are just trying to find out exactly what they can in that situation.
So all of this taking place at about 4:30, just about 30 minutes before Vaughan Foods was set to close for the day. Online it says that they close at 5 o'clock, so about 30 minutes before closing time. An active situation there, stabbing and shooting taking place at Vaughan Foods, the South Plant. If you're just now joining us here on KOCO 5 News at 5, this is happening in Moore at Northeast 12th Street. Still considered an active situation. No suspect in custody at this point that they believe, although one man was taken from the scene.
So the latest information we have on injuries, we know that one woman was stabbed there, pronounced dead at the scene at Vaughan Foods. This man, Jessica just referred to, has been taken to OU Med, and he is the victim of a gunshot wound. Don't know his relation to this entire situation, how he was involved in this, but that is what they are telling us. The information coming in from Moore Police Department at this time.
And officers still going through this large building right now, making sure that this situation, that they have everything covered right now. They are considering it active, but they don't believe anyone's in immediate danger at this point, although they don't know exactly who the shooter may be.
Okay, well, I want to go now to the phones. We've got a person who works nearby named Sanjay, and he joins us now. And what did you see? Thanks for talking to us, Sanjay.
Oh, it's not a problem. I appreciate you guys having me on. Everybody here at Diagnostic Medical was just working inside and started hearing the helicopters overhead and came out and just immediately started noticing the ambulance and all the flashing lights down the street. It's just crazy to see that this could happen, even what's considered a small town like Moore.
And Shamday, did you see anyone running from that scene? When you started to hear all of those noises, did you take a peek outside to look around? Kind of describe the moments after all of this went down.
Yeah, we did. Quite a few of our employees stepped outside to take a look. Nobody saw anybody running, any which way as far as trying to get away from Vaughan Foods from that area. Our phones kind of started, everybody's cell phone and all the phones here at our office kind of just started ringing off the hook for people trying to let us know, in case we hadn't seen it or heard it, that there was, an active shooting going on, basically right down the corner.
And Sanjay, it kind of set that neighborhood up for us. We see the Vaughan Foods. Is this an industrial area? We understand there's a railroad tracks near there. This doesn't look like just a neighborhood with houses around it.
No, it is more of a little bit of an industrial area. There is a neighborhood that's basically right across the street where Vaughan Foods is on the corner. It's on 12th Street in Moore and Messenger Lane. And when you go down Messenger Lane, there's quite a few metal fabricated buildings that are different things, granite suppliers, heat and air companies, our company, Diagnostic Medical, and it's more of an industrial area here. And on either side of that is our both small neighborhoods, and there is a railroad track actually butts up right behind Vaughan Foods in our warehouse.
And you work just across the street, correct?
Right down the street. There's a bend in Messenger Lane, right where Vaughan Foods stops for the second building down the road.
And so I assume that you may drive past Vaughan Foods, see the parking lot full of vehicles in the morning or the afternoon of employees.
Every day.
Is it safe to say that there are hundreds of people employed there?
I would definitely say there's probably at least 100 people that probably work there. Every day, morning and night, that place is booming. There are cars in that parking lot at all hours of the day during the workday. Yeah.
It's a fresh food place, so I assume there's probably big trucks hauling in and out as well.
Correct. There's quite a few semis that come in and out.
And Sanjay, we are watching our live pictures right now from the scene. Our crew is just across the street. We see that the roadway is open, cars driving by. At any point, was this scene a little more shut down? Did they close off the road at one point?
We saw some police tape going out across the road, but it looked like they were checking credentials or whatever whenever people were trying to leave, because some of the other warehouses, some of the other buildings on the road did send people home immediately because I think they were worried about maybe getting shut down for a longer period of time. So we saw quite a few cars leaving, and it didn't seem like they got anybody turned away and turned back. So I think the police were letting them all through.
Okay, Sanjay Murcha, we appreciate you talking to us today, and the information works very close to that scene. And let's just look at it here. It's the 400 block of Northeast 12th. It is in Moore. It is the Vaughan Foods, as Sanjay was talking about there. We understand that there has been one person stabbed, another person has been shot. That person is at OU Medical Center. And let's go out to KOCO's Morgan Chesky. He is there right now with the very latest information. Morgan?
Yeah, Paul, Jess, we know the person shot was a man that was taken away from that scene down at Vaughan Foods a short time ago. And we believe, police say, he may be a suspect in this whole incident. Now, as for the person who pulled the trigger in this case, police officer Jeremy Lewis with Moore PD telling me they're looking into whether or not an off-duty officer may have been the one who pulled the trigger at Vaughan Foods in that immediate area when that stabbing occurred just a short time ago. Now, right now, we're here outside OU Med. We're told that anyone believed to have been tied to this incident, injured, is brought here. We know that that man with gunshot wounds will be coming from Moore. We have the Midwest City ambulance that serves the Moore area here. And I can tell you that police still on this scene down at Vaughan Foods trying to make sure that it is safe for everyone. They were still treating it as an active scene a short time ago. However, Jeremy Lewis telling me he doesn't believe anyone is in any immediate danger in the nearby area. Good news there. Meanwhile, police want people to know that if they have any information, they can contact them and let them know. I know that Jeremy Lewis is going to be holding a briefing very shortly here just outside that Vaughan Foods. Meanwhile, we are here at the hospital waiting to hear any more information as it becomes available. But Paul, Jess, still a lot of confusion surrounding this situation outside that business as to just who exactly pulled that trigger here.
Okay, Morgan, Morgan outside OU Medical Center. And the reason why, I mean, it's only been about 45 minutes since this whole event started.
Yeah, they have to make sure that the situation is safe for everyone there at the scene, and they can start working out the details of who stabbed who shot who. But it's sounding like, from what Morgan is saying, that an off-duty officer may have been there on the scene and perhaps was the one who helped to bring this to an end when you have a stabbing situation there at Vaughan Foods.
We've got another ambulance pulling into the scene right here. You can see this is an IMSA ambulance that's pulled up there to the hospital. Working to find out if that's related to this incident or not. We do not know that at this particular moment. But there at Vaughan Foods, as we were looking at the scene there, it is a large facility. As you might imagine, as soon as the call came in, officers had to determine what they had on their hands, and they did consider it an active shooting scene there for a few moments until they exactly figured out what they had. And as they got there and ascertained that they had a person that had been stabbed to death, a lady, and then another man that had been shot. He was brought right here to OU Medical Center, and that's where Morgan Chesky is. The news briefing, we understand, is going to happen there at Vaughan Foods. Right,
and our crew is on that scene there at Vaughan Foods. We dipped away from that live picture for just a moment because they're trying to get set up and in position so we can hear this live news briefing from Moore Police on exactly what they're learning there at Vaughan Foods off of Northeast 12th Street. Certainly been a chaotic situation. That is how the public information and police officer there, who Morgan Chesky's been talking with, described the scene as one woman was stabbed to death and a man was shot and taken to the hospital there.
And Morgan Chesky saying that, there are unconfirmed reports that an off-duty officer may have been on that scene and may have been the person who shot this potential suspect as we continue to try to find out more information on this. All of that, just information that we're trying to confirm with police right now.
And certainly we're about to learn a few more details momentarily, so just hang with us in just a couple of minutes. We're talking just minutes away from now. We should be getting a briefing from Moore Police on exactly what they're learning, but certainly a frightening, confusing, I'm sure, situation there for everyone on the scene at Vaughan Foods just before closing time.
Yeah, 4:30 in the afternoon, they're wrapping up for the day. And then as we talked to a man named Samjay just on the phone, he works across the street, just down the street from that place. And he said that it's sort of an industrial area. There are a lot of other offices and buildings in there. There is a neighborhood not too far away, but police did not have to block off any roads. They did not have to evacuate any businesses. But he did tell us, our caller on the phone told us that some people went ahead and sent their employees home immediately so they could get out of the way, because when they heard that there was potential active shooter on the scene, they got everybody out of there. But there at Vaughan Foods, we're working to find out, what the situation was, how many employees were still in the building. And at 4:30, perhaps there were still a large number of people working.
And you saw how large the building is. They're a food product supplier across the country where they're producing and distributing cold foods, and seems to have a number of employees there on staff. The location you're watching here, seeing this map, the address I'm seeing online is 216 Northeast 12th Street in Moore. This is the Vaughan Foods South plant, but you can see it's just in between Santa Fe and Eastern, not far from the railroad tracks there off of 12th Street, as Paul said, in somewhat of an industrial area, not too many neighborhoods, not too many homes around that scene there of Vaughan Foods.
Now, we have seen more police there on the scene. As soon as this started and happened, there were a lot of officers reporting. We were in the newsroom listening to this all on the scanner, and we heard Morgan describe it at one point as chaotic, and certainly when this was all starting and coming down, we heard a lot of officers being called to the scene from a lot of different departments to help out. But we do know that now more police are handling the situation. OHP is there in assistance as well.
Assisting them. Our crew said that they saw armed officers going into that building. As you might imagine, when the call comes out that there may be an active shooting situation at a business in Moore, turns out it was a stabbing and perhaps a shooting as well, but the shooting may have been an off-duty officer who shot the suspect. Again, still trying to get that confirmed, and we should be just minutes away from hearing that from more police on what they found out at this point, because now we are about an hour later after all of this went down at 4:30, so just about 50 minutes later, and here's another live look at the scene there just outside Vaughan Foods, and you still see all of the emergency crews on the scene. If you look off in the distance a bit, you can see the crime scene tape that is up as well. As this has turned into a deadly situation, sadly, one woman was stabbed to death.
Just 30 minutes before closing, we are still working, and hopefully in this briefing we will find out a little bit more information about who this person was, what her relationship to that business is, and where all of this exactly happened. We don't know if it happened inside or if it happened outside of the building, and that's what we're working to find out.
And also the relationship to whomever stabbed this woman. Our crews reported seeing a maroon Tahoe that was cordoned off there at the scene by crime scene tape. So you can imagine crews are searching every nook and cranny in that vehicle, looking for any pieces of evidence if they have it cordoned off right now by crime scene tape.
And so I believe we have Sky 5 just approaching that scene. Sky 5 was up in Stillwater for the ball game up there this evening, but we sent them down. And if you look on the left, Sky 5 headed over to that scene and more to get a bird's eye view for you. And here at on the scene, on the ground, you can see a couple ladies there trying to perhaps find out some information. Let's go out to KOCO's Morgan Chesky. He's got some brand new information for us. Morgan?
Yeah, Paul, just still trying to learn as much as we can right here. I can show you that this Moore police car just pulled up to the scene. I approached the two officers who were standing behind it just 30 seconds ago, and they opened up that trunk. They pulled out 3 large bags of the trunk. Couldn't see what was inside. Asked them how long they had been here, what they knew about the situation down at Vaughan. Of course, they could not tell me anything. They referred me back to the spokesman, Jeremy Lewis, who is outside of the scene right now, trying to find out more about this. Everyone being very tight-lipped about the situation here. We know as of right now, still being treated as an active shooter situation. I'm told officers going through that building, making sure that they've covered every inch of it and that it doesn't pose a threat to anyone in that area. Now, as for the 2 people affected right now that we know of, we know a woman who was stabbed at the scene. She was pronounced dead there. And the man who was taken away from that scene with gunshots and brought here to OU Med, we believe, the police tell me they believe he may be the suspect in this case. We know that he was taken away from the scene with multiple gunshot wounds. We do not know who pulled the trigger here, and police officer Jeremy Lewis telling me they are looking into whether or not an off-duty officer was the one near that scene who pulled the trigger, shooting that man who has now been brought here to OU Med. Again, you can see evidence of more police here on the scene, just pulling out 3 large bags, not telling me why, not telling me how long they've been here, but we are starting to hopefully hear a little bit more about what's happening down there. Paul, Jess, you mentioned it, a briefing should be held shortly here outside that scene and more. Of course, a lot of people have questions, just what exactly happened there. Hopefully, that will provide us with a little insight here. Until then, we're live outside OU Med. Morgan Chesky, KOCO 5 News.
Morgan, thank you. Getting new information there from OU Med. And of course, we're awaiting this new information there on the ground at Northeast 12th Street, right in the parking lot of Vaughan Foods, is where we are expecting to hear from more police to give us the very latest information on what's happened there at that facility. A facility that processes food and distributes it really all over the country. You and I were looking at the map, and they are a very large operation and supply food all over the place.
Right. They distribute and produce refrigerated foods there at that plant in Moore. I believe they have some other plants as well, but that is home base from what I understand, there off of Northeast 12th in Moore. You can imagine there are a number of employees who work at this large plant, and you're seeing, looks like you see an officer walking out from that scene there. He just went behind a vehicle. I believe it looked like he had a gun over his shoulder, but I may be mistaken. Hard to tell right now.
I see, I think we've just pushed in, yeah, you can see them working with the vehicle. Yeah, man, yeah. That's a serious gun right there he's got.
Right, and it looks like there may be a group that's gathering in one area over there of the media. Hopefully that is the briefing that is going to take place. We keep hearing momentarily, any minute now, because we know that you're wanting to find out the latest information for more police, as are we, to get what they've learned now about an hour after this stabbing and shooting has taken place at this plant there in Moore.
And I believe I see Dave Detling there in the crowd of reporters and gathering new information on this situation as we continue to try to find out exactly what's happened here at Vaughan Foods. Of course, that briefing. Okay, yeah, we do have Dave Detling.
Yeah, so let's go live to him right now. Dave, what are you hearing?
By.
Dave, can you hear us? Let's give us the information.
Well, right now the media has pretty much gotten here into a group. Hey guys, can you hear me?
We've got you, Dave. Go ahead.
We're right here with Jeremy Lewis with the Moore Police Department. Jeremy, what can you tell us? We heard one person killed, possibly with stab wounds, and a man taken to OU Medical.
Approximately 4:15, we were dispatched to Vaughan Foods in reference to some sort of a fight. While officers were dispatched, it turned out there was a knife involved. As they got closer, it turned into shooting. So when officers arrived, they approached the business as a active shooter situation. Once they entered the business, they found a female deceased.